We're now joined by West Virginia coach Bob Huggins. Coach, welcome, and your thoughts about the upcoming season.
But can't get here soon enough. It's you know, we're whatever we are, a couple of weeks into practice, and it starts to get a little boring and mundane even for coaches. So we've got a scrimmage coming up, which we're looking forward to, and I like our team. I like the enthusiasm that they bring every day, and I think we're finally maybe going to try to guard somebody, which would be something new, and actually maybe try to run to the rim and shoot a layup. We've been kind of like your dog, you know, with electric fence. We run right to that three and kind of stop right there. So we're going to actually try to run in past the three-point line this year and see if that works.
Okay, we'll take questions for Coach. We got a question on the front.
John Roney, Dos Muertos newspaper. Coach, could you just talk about in what ways has Gary Brown matured in his time with the program, and what do you expect of him as a senior in terms of leadership and so forth?
Well, I think, you know, Gary's always brought a lot of enthusiasm and toughness, but, you know, Gary was kind of like a dog chasing a bone, you know. I mean, wherever the ball was, he chased it, and with total disregard for where his man was. But he was, you know, he'd always made some plays and stole the ball, so I guess that was okay. It's just, you know, it's hard to do that at this level, and I think he's become much more disciplined. At the defensive end, I think he's become much more disciplined at the offensive end. He kind of understands kind of what he can and can't do, and I think he's done a much better job of accentuating the positive.
Got a question in the middle, front.
Blair Kirkhoff with the Kansas City Star. Bob, where do you want to see Juwan's game go this year?
Well, I kind of want him to do the same thing he did a year ago. I just like to get the same kind of production with not as many minutes. I think he wore down a little bit at the end of the year playing all those minutes, and, you know, like to be able to rest him some more, have him fresher at the end of games, I think. And I talked to him about this. I think there were times where he was spent, you know, at the end of games, and when we really needed him sometimes to go get the ball, he just couldn't. And I think if we can keep him fresher, want the ball in his hands, obviously, at the end of games. He's a guy that can make free throws down the stretch, and he's a guy that's not going to turn it over. So we want to rest him more, but still get the same kind of production from him. I think he's shooting the ball so much better. I don't know he's shooting it better. I think he's shooting with so much more confidence. You know, I think he could shoot it last year. He just, I don't think, had enough confidence to do so. But he's put a tremendous amount of time in the gym and worked really hard at it, which I think has really helped his confidence level.
Questions for Coach. We're not going to let him off that easy.
Well, after Rick Barnes, they've already figured everything out. I spent 5 minutes with Rick, and I feel smarter, you know.
Questions for Coach. We got a question on the front. Just a moment here.
Coach Jeff Coyle, West Virginia Illustrated. Last year you came with the cardigan, this year with the bow tie. Is this a nod to Gordon Gee or just a fashion statement?
Tribute to our president, yeah. No, it just kind of seemed like the right thing to do. And I'd kind of like to keep you guessing. I don't want people to think they figured me out yet.
Any more basketball questions for Coach?
I appreciate you being concerned about my wardrobe, though.
Do we have a question on the left-hand side here? I guess not. Okay, we got one on the front.
Okay, basketball. A lot of players down low last year were brand new to the program, guys who you had to count on simply because you needed them. To see Devin Williams coming back this year, Brandon Watkins, what do they bring this year that maybe they weren't capable of last year being forced in there?
Well, we're certainly hoping that Devin's a guy we can throw the ball to that can score it close. You know, I think basketball being a game of runs, you try to stop runs, and we obviously couldn't do that at the defensive end. So, you know, we just tried to keep pace offensively, and when we started missing shots, there was no second option. And I think Devin spent a great deal of time this summer with KJ, and Kevin Jones, and I don't think anybody has ever maximized their potential better than what Kevin Jones did, and really learned how to use his body and shield people off the ball with his body and be able to score it, you know, around the rim by just using those big shoulders. And I think Devin has made tremendous progress in that area. I think he scores the ball so much better around the basket. It's nice when you can throw it close and kind of stop the bleeding, so to speak, when people are making runs. And I think Dev can do that for us. And, you know, and Brandon's worked really hard on, you know, you want them to have a go-to, something that they can go to, and he's worked really hard on being able to jump hook the ball with either hand. And he's a guy that he probably, you know, he's not as strong as Devin yet, so he loses post position a little easier. But when he catches it there, he scores it at a very high rate because of his ability to, his length, and then the ability to throw that jump hook.
Question on the front.
It's a good thing you two guys are here.
Yeah.
I know. I'd feel like the lost soul. I do anyways, but.
Well, that's okay. Glad we can help you feel less alone.
And I appreciate you doing so.
So, anyway, another basketball question, which is, in what ways do you feel like your non-conference schedule prepares you to play in a league that some of your colleagues are saying is arguably one of the country's best?
I don't know the answer to that. I've done this for a long time, and I think there's been times where we've overscheduled. I think there's times when we've underscheduled. I think part of the problem is you do the schedule a little bit ahead. Like, I would probably have done some different things after having 2 weeks of practice than what I did last year when we were trying to make the schedule. You know, I think there's times when you ought to back off a little bit. You know, you have young guys like we had a year ago, and to try to develop some confidence. And then there's other times I think when you have veterans where you need to consistently challenge them. And I'm just making all that up because I really don't know what to say. I appreciate you writing it down, though, and I mean, try to write it like I really did know what I was talking about, but I really don't. I don't know that there's really a good answer sometimes. You know, honestly, you look at some of those teams that they end up, you know, going a long way in a tournament, and they played just a horrendous non-conference schedule. Everybody says it makes you better. It only makes you better if you win.
Final question for Coach.
Excuse me.
Coach, just going back a couple of years when you had so many brand new true freshmen, Gary Brown's class, and now you have a lot of new players, but a lot of them have played at least college basketball before. How different is this transition compared to that, when these guys, you know, should have a little bit better understanding of what will be expected of them?
Well, obviously, I hope we're a whole lot better. You know, a lot of it is having people who kind of fit together. You know, and I think this group really does. They seemingly like each other a lot. As I said earlier, they brought great enthusiasm, I think, to every practice, which makes it a lot more fun. You know, I think everybody enjoys it more. I certainly enjoy it more. We've spent a lot of time trying to explain to them that it's hard to coach effort and basketball at the same time. If you're constantly coaching effort, you don't coach a lot of basketball. And I think to this point, their effort's been pretty good. And we've been able to actually go in and coach basketball, which is seemingly what they're supposed to want, and certainly what we want to do. So we're way ahead in that area. And then, you know, having a guy like Jonathan Holden, who just I don't know that I've had many people who have the enthusiasm that he has on a day-to-day basis. I mean, he just comes in every day just excited to play, loves to play. And he's a guy that you don't have to run things for him to score. You know, a lot of guys you have to, you know, Joe Alexander had a great year for us, but we had to run things for Joe, you know. And I think Jonathan's a guy who can score the ball without running plays for him. He's a guy who he's going to get it off the glass. He's going to get it in transition. He's going to make open shots, you know. And he's a guy that you don't have to say this is Jonathan's play for him to score, which is kind of refreshing, you know, in a seemingly in an era where everybody wants to catch it and dribble it 74 times before they pass it. He doesn't do that, you know. And actually, he's a guy that I think at some point in time we're going to have to tell him to go ahead and try to look to score more. You know, I know we can throw it to him in a post and he passes it out of the post to open people. He's just he's not your typical modern day kind of guy. He's kind of a throwback kind of guy, which is kind of fun.
Okay, Coach, thank you very much, and have a great season.
Thank you.